In light of the lightsaber going up for auction in the fall, for those that haven't seen it, I'll try to put a link in the description. Darth Vader's choreography sword fighting stunt has been brought to light, brought to the light of day, and then its prop store must have cut a deal, and they're auctioning it in an upcoming auction. So that's exciting. There aren't many of those left from the original trilogy, being that that was in this saber was used in 1978, and then again in 82, sorry. It's quite some time ago. So I have not built one yet. That's on my radar now. I did a version of one a while ago, but that's for future Tom. But in the same vein of bladed flash stunt sabers, one of mine happened to come loose or something. I don't know how or why, but since I had to disassemble it to tighten it, I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about flash lightsabers. Excuse me. But these things, unlike the Obi-Wan Luke versions, which for the most part are solid, when you put a sword tang in something like this, the Obi-Wan stunts were hollow down to here. This is only hollow up top for the short scenes it needed. But in general, if something is solid and you put metal in it, all the weight from the sword fighting is just transferred to the solid hilt. Unfortunately, camera flashes, are hollow. And they did literally turn camera flashes into stunt sabers. So they were hit with a conundrum. Oh, this is an unfinished Darth Vader. Even Darth Vader ones, because it was a flashlight essentially for your camera shutter. It's all hollow, thin-walled. So that begs the question, how would you turn that into a lightsaber that you could beat on each other with and, film scenes and jump around and all that jazz? Well, I think Lucasfilm has the pipe stunt, the DV6. I'll explain these in a minute. The pipe stunt, DV6. Oh, the Barbican is still around, but not in its original state. So really there's only two, well, the V3 is there. There's only two, what I like to call black bolt sabers in the archives that still have their bolts. This is a system they came up with for Empire Strikes Back to do the faster and harder choreography. Let's see. So this would be, if you ignore the holes, this is your camera flash, right? Hollow. And they wanted to use steel for a tang. That's a good idea. This is a little groove in here for set screws to hold things to a shaft, which is pretty common. So what they did, they filled, I'm at a drawing table, so it's tilted and everything rolls. They filled the flash with metal, with just a hole for the tang. So this just slides right in, and it would then have to be secured. Now, to make this really believable, they still tried to keep as much of the flash as possible. Just like, I think I've got one here. This is an old Graflex flash that's been unconverted. There were bakelite sockets in here for the flash bulbs. You could plug a tripper into here a cable would run to your camera to sync everything up. Take your picture. They at least tried to save some of that. However, the blade right up against the socket It's a lot of force. It could crack Bakelite pretty easily. So they added a little section of metal right here, screwed in with some screws. We don't know if that's the original kind of screw, but for what it's worth, we're able to see these. There's like a hockey puck of metal to take the weight, but they still included the rest of the socket. But that's not enough. A little tiny bit of metal is not enough to take all the force of the tang and stuff like that. Because we put it in here, it can still rattle around. Oops. See, you can still rattle around in here. So they did keep part of the socket, and they filled the rest up with metal as well. That's solid. See, there's the bandsaw marks. But the tang runs right through here, and it's fixed right in a, what would you call it, a blind hole down here. That's what came loose. There's my set screw. That's the one thing we don't know, is how the tangs were held in, which I would love to frickin' know someday. I decided to use a grub screw that then is hidden inside the flash. Now this came from Roy at wanawanga.com. He decided to screw his socket pieces to his core so it could go in one piece. Pretty clever, if I do say so myself. So I did the same thing just for ease of use, but the original's probably not like that. Okay. Gonna make sure it goes in the right way. Oh wait, this was my problem before. Let's put the tang in. Really? Really? Let's see. Make sure this grub screw is loose. Is that as far as it goes? Yep. Okay. Okay. Let's get that seated right in there. And that shouldn't go anywhere. Use this for more leverage. Perfect. Okay, that's not going anywhere. I'm paranoid. Let me give it one more. That's good enough. Now, slide the core in. Boy, it's a tight fit, which it's supposed to be. You know. That is a really tight fit. I don't want to force anything, so let me make sure. See, you're watching this in real time. Let's see, what scratches am I getting? Oh, about there. Okay. I think that's just burrs from, yeah, that's just burrs from drilling. Okay. There we go. Make sure. Oh, it lined up itself. That's great. That's great. Sort of. Sort of. Okay. And then to secure this core inside here, they put the black bolts in. My favorite part of these sabers. Literally countersunk black oxide bolts. We can see them on castings, molds taken back in the 80s. We can see them on the 2.5 lightsabers they still have in the archives that have these. And now we can see them on the main Darth Vader stunt lightsaber that's now up for auction. These are M6. They're metric, just like the ones used on set, because it was filmed in England. Bang, bang, bang. Yep. Don't ask me why there are so many. Personally, I think the... no, my socket is shifted a little bit. The Darth Vader socket is shifted. We noticed that earlier, that it's like shifted to the right a little bit inside the tube. Personally, I think they put like a handful of screws in, and then maybe the choreography was too hard and the saber started to warp a little bit, so they kept adding more to like make sure it stayed round. That's my best guess. I don't really know. Or it could have been the first version and somebody just went overkill with the bolts, making sure it stayed round, and then they would have made the other ones later and realized they didn't need that many, because the pipe stunt only has 4. The Darth Vader one that's up for auction has 4. Oh yeah, and the Barbican, when it was done with bolts, was done with 4. Okay. I gotcha. There's 4 on most of the rest of them, which is pretty cool. So, these are tightened in, and now you have that charismatic black bolt look. If anyone had any Hasbro or Kenner toys back in the day, there was a Darth Vader and Luke lightsaber set. They were actually the stunt sabers. They went to the archives, they found the ones that still existed, and the Darth Vader one is covered in bolts, because they took Luke's from Empire Strikes Back and made it into Darth Vader's for Return of the Jedi. So unfortunately, this saber does not exist in the form it did originally. It's currently got black paint on it. It's all souped up and broken and all that stuff. Fun. It just went out on tour with Star Wars Identities. Unfortunately, it was on a Vader costume, like, way far away. Not many good pictures of it. I'm going to tighten these screws up here as well, just to make sure. That one's a slotted screw. This is just the original screw that comes with the Graflex right here. It's a 440, so if we ever find the right kind of screw head to use there, I'll just do that. My Allen wrenches. And so that is how they secure. Oh yeah, let me put the red buttons in. This is how they secured the sabers in camera flash stunts. Is that crooked? I don't want to cross thread it, but 1.5, that's good enough. But yes, so one of the things we don't know, what's going on the bottom, because there were grips, there was a clamp, all that, but we think we see fasteners on the clamp, and we think we see fasteners between the grips as well. So it's a bayonet lock. So I have little Sharpie marks here. I'm not going to drill before I know what to drill, in case I drill too big. So I'm still waiting on information on what to do with this. And there's got to be more fasteners down here. And the bigger question is, did they add more core down here? Because this is pretty well balanced. It's right, all the weight is right where your hand is. But this can easily loosen. So we're pretty sure that the core does end about here. But maybe they added more down here. We don't know. Now the Darth Vader saber, this is the unfinished Vader we've got here. a Micro Precision Products flash is all one tube. So you don't have that risk of disassembly. It's all one solid piece. So we don't know yet if there's stuff in the bottom of Darth Vader's bladed stunt. Brandon hasn't said, no one said yet. Not sure if they've looked inside. Or they could feel, you know, if it's like this, then probably not, but that's some information we're still looking at. And it's really nice to see, because there aren't any that still exist this way, but it's nice to see a lightsaber with the tang still exposed at its full length. I kind of guessed at this length, like, it's got to be somewhere around here. This is the general length of the one that's up for auction too. It might be out to here or something, but that made me pretty happy to be like, look, this is mine is like this too. That's pretty cool. This being the Luke one, and the Darth Vader one being up for auction. Ignoring the fact they took a Luke and made it into a Darth Vader for Return of the Jedi in '82. I wish they didn't, because I kind of wish this was still in the same condition it was in '78. But the blades themselves, in case we don't remember or know, were boat antennas. They were VHF antennas, the best we can tell. They machined fittings for the inside of them. I've been doing this a lot the past few years. This is actually a vintage antenna. Not as old as the ones they used on set. Nice and broken up top. The ones they used were made, obviously, in the late 70s. This is the same company, but in the early 90s. So 15 years later, maybe. No, maybe 10, 12 years later. The company was bought and sold a few times. And this is the same company, I think, after 2 transfers. But it still has the original taper. It could be a little, this is a little thicker. I wish this were skinnier. They thickened this up as it got newer. But the original antennas are pretty straight right here. The new ones that look like this from different companies, they taper right from here. So I have to take a lathe and taper the frickin' bushings to exactly match the taper of this and hammer them in. Back in the day, because they had a straighter piece here, they could just take a piece of aluminum cylinder and just put it right in. All they had to worry about was drilling straight through, and if they had a good lathe, they could do that. I do not, so I cannot drill through, so I use China or some friends to make that straight hole. But the outside machining, I think this is about that long. That's all up to me. That's all up to me. And so, with this being solid, that's what you're looking at. That's what you're looking at. There's a Good Morning America video of behind the scenes of Empire Strikes Back, and they have a little Darth Vader section where he's holding his lightsaber, and you can see the collar with the set screw, and the blade has reflective sheeting on it, which is pretty cool. This is my favorite area of Star Wars replica making, Star Wars prop replica making. And this is still unfinished. I cannot wait. It's not bad. I have yet to get these to really lock down hard enough. It might be the type of set screws I use. I don't know. But that is the most accurate prop replica you're going to get. Other than, holding the actual prop. This is the closest thing, which is amazing. The Darth Vader one that's up for auction has bolts right around here. And there's a socket right here. They did keep this. But they added metal on top, just like the hockey puck on this. they did actually replace this with metal as well, which is a thicker piece. It goes about that high. And then there's the main core. God knows how long it is. God knows, but it does have a whole metal section up here as well, just like the Luke. And my final Easter egg for you, in Empire Strikes Back, if you go back and watch it again, when Luke and Vader end up in the duel at the very end, before anybody even starts, Vader's just standing off above the stairs, hasn't even turned on his lightsaber yet. There is a shot right before they start when he's holding his saber like this, right at his hip. And all you can see is a white circle. And that is the reflection of a solid piece of aluminum. See if I can do it here with a lamp or something. It's just that. Well, yeah, it's just that. One of their camera tricks of turning a lightsaber on was to just do this. And so the blade would like come out of the handle and they could rotoscope over that. But this was off. And then it was just on. It was clever as hell. But you can actually see the aluminum core on film, which is pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. I'll put a link in the description, at least to the RPF thread. And there you go. My stunt saber obsession. My black bolt saber obsession. I've got more bolts to hunt.